This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Kunana. Now, in this show, we talk about everything under the sun, and tonight is part one of our special series, Back to School special series, and we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic for parents and students out there, and this is the importance of the English language. And joining us tonight to talk about this very interesting topic is a very good friend of mine. His name is Chris De La Cruz, and he is the co-founder and specialist and general manager of the American Institute for English Proficiency. Good evening, Chris.
Hello.
Welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Good evening, buddy. Thank you for having me.
It's been a long time. I think the last time I interviewed you was several years ago.
Yes, I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we just moved next door
Has it
to
been that
this-
long, huh?
I think so, yes. But we've been friends on Facebook for a while.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then so
Yes.
much has happened since then with your business and your center. And you know, it's a pleasure to have you on board tonight. And
Yes.
especially very timely because classes have just started for many schools.
That's right.
And I think this topic we have tonight is so important going forward, and I hope our viewers tonight can really gain a lot from this talk. Now, before we jump into the topic of why English is important, the importance of English, let's talk about you. What is your background?
Well, I was born here in the Philippines, but I grew up in the United States. So I finished my elementary, high school, college. I worked in the US before I came back to the Philippines. And when I came back here, I realized with the co-founder of the school, Paulo, that there was a need for English and communication skills for Filipinos.
Yes.
So I came back and I stayed since then, and I love it here. So
Very nice, very nice. Now, interesting you should say that you saw the need. Why did you see, I mean, what exactly did you see in the situation here in the Philippines that led you to this advocacy?
Well, at first there were 3 things that I saw. First and foremost, my relatives. They were very shy when it came to speaking with me. Secondly, I saw that there was a boom in the call center industry. So I decided, hey, maybe this is something I can do here, help people get jobs in the call center. And finally, I saw people were just all over the place. They were not confident when they came to meet me or when I spoke with them. It was just difficult communicating with them. So I realized that there was this need to make people more confident.
Yes, yes. You know how it is, the Philippines is known as a country of English speakers.
Right.
It is actually an official language.
Yes,
right?
in the Constitution.
It is in the Constitution, right? And media, a lot of the media, entertainment. A lot of things are in English, definitely.
Right.
And you know, people take it for granted the Philippines is really an English-speaking country.
Yes.
But you know, this is a question I want to ask you. What is the situation now of Filipinos and English? What is the level really, the real level of Filipinos, of the real English proficiency level of Filipinos in general?
In the past, in the 70s, early 80s, even early 90s, we used to be very strong because English was well respected and everyone spoke it. Even the teachers were very strict about English. But just recently, as evidenced by call centers, we've seen that there is a very strong need for call center workers who speak English very well, but at the same time, we're not getting graduates who speak well enough.
Yeah.
So we are conversational, we can understand English, but it's very difficult when it comes to professional English, when we're using grammar properly or when we're thinking about our ideas properly. So it has been very difficult for graduates to utilize the language very well.
Yes, and I understand there are some statistics, right, that actually very alarming statistics.
Yes.
That point to, you know, the fact that so few graduates, Filipino graduates of colleges and universities, actually can qualify for call center jobs.
That's right.
And I think it's something like 10%.
Roughly even 5%, as low as 5%. Yeah. What's happening is that there used to be a program under former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, and they had vouchers wherein they were given vouchers for those who qualified. They went to an English school using that voucher, and when they were placed in a call center, only very small percentage, 5 to 10%, actually were still able to get into a call center.
After going through that program?
Yes.
Just 5 to 10%, okay.
So that means to say that people who are going through this program aren't very good to start with.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's only 5 to 10%.
Now, these vouchers, meaning that this was funded by the government?
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, 3 to 5 years ago, during, hold on, 6 years ago, I think.
Yeah. So a person, let's say Filipino, a student, let's say graduate, could have used these vouchers to go to an English proficiency school, like yours,
right,
and undergone training,
and still
at the government expense,
yes,
and then apply at
a call center, and still can't get in.
Yeah.
So it means to say that even before they went into the school, they probably did not qualify to begin with.
It was that bad.
It was that bad, yes. So even now, there is a strong demand for call center workers, and a lot of people are still not getting in. So not everyone wants to work in a call center, of course. They went for engineering or they went for accounting, but there are not a lot of jobs here in the country right now. So while looking for other opportunities, we might as well work in the call center so that it helps with our family.
It pays well. It pays well. Right? And,
yes.
It is good employment.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Actually, some studies show that those who travel abroad, let's say working in Hong Kong, they have college degrees, they become OFWs, they earn just about the same, except that they're further from their families, their expenses are higher. So I think there's also a program wherein the government is actually trying to bring back some of these OFWs, train them in some English-speaking skills, and then have them work in a call center instead of working far, far away from the Philippines.
Now, just out of curiosity, this program, you know, the voucher training program that the government did institute during the time of former President Gloria Arroyo, is it still running now, or?
Actually, it's not, and that's one of the reasons why our school changed as well. Back when they were still running it, we wanted to jump on the bandwagon. Wherein, hey, let's have all these potential call center workers come into our school. But we realized that sooner or later the funds will run out, and that we have to diversify or find a way to make our school different from other schools. So we went into the critical thinking aspect, the empowerment aspect of teaching English. And not just the typical subject-verb agreement, conversation fluency. And when the program was done, a lot of the English schools closed.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, I mean, this is the first time I've actually heard about this program of the former administration. I say that, you know, I have to say that it's tragic that they've stopped it, because I can see the value. I can see the value of giving our labor force, you know, additional skills that they could use, that they should use.
The problem at that time was that it seemed as if anyone who applied for a voucher got the voucher. And not everyone qualified. So how are you going to spend millions and millions of pesos, wherein you only have a 5 to 10 to 15% replacement rate.
So the problem goes back again to the basic foundation of education in the country, no?
The education of the country, yes. The way we teach English, yes. To the way the teachers are teaching English.
Yeah. Now, okay, since we're talking about your school, let's talk about the American Institute for English Proficiency. Tell us about your institute, how it started, and what is its mission and vision.
Okay, well, like I said, I actually first met my business partner, Vin. He goes by Vin, and we decided that we would partner up and open the school because we both met at a call center, actually.
Okay.
So that's where it began. But we decided that we wanted something more, something for ourselves. And at that time, people needed to be trained in English, public speaking. And since I come from a background of teaching English in the United States, I was a debater, I was a public speaker, I was in impromptu speaking competitions all my life. I decided, hey, this is something I can bring back to my country as well. So in a way, it was sort of finding myself here in the Philippines as well, because I had lived in the United States for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So our mission really is to help the Filipinos and empower them to become better speakers so that they can make better decisions for themselves. As you know, in our country, I'm a political science major, so I see that a lot of people are not empowered. They're in fear, they lack confidence, and that's because they don't have great communication skills and they don't have the English proficiency skills. So if they had that, they would be able to empower themselves for careers, for opportunities, for many things.
Yes,
and our vision then, of course, is to have someday turn our school into a university.
Yes. And you know, we always talk about how the Filipino is globally competitive, should be globally competitive,
Yes.
and let's face it, the lingua franca of the world is English.
Right.
I mean, say what you might want to say about Mandarin, which is fast coming up to be a major force linguistically right in the world. It really is still English.
It's still, it won't
Language
go
of
away.
business, of international culture, of sport. I mean, people do converse in English.
There's a difference between someone who can converse in English versus someone who speaks English well.
Yeah.
So I would say that Filipinos can converse in English. That's why we become OFWs, we work abroad. But if you spoke English well, you'd actually be in command. You'd be in control. You would not be abused. You would not be taken advantage of. You would be in control of your destiny, more so than people looking down on you.
And it gives Filipinos an opportunity for advancement, right?
Yes.
Social mobility. Because, okay, since
Yes.
you brought up the topic of OFWs, you know, I travel a lot. I bump into
Right.
a lot of OFWs, especially in the Middle East. And sure, they can speak English, but it's, as I observe, it's only until a certain degree, a certain
Yes.
level. But above that, let's say, as you mentioned, professional English,
Right.
then it is a glass ceiling that they
Exactly.
can't seem, that few of them can seem to break through.
Yes, because I kind of see it as a subservient English. It comes from our culture of being respectful, which is good, from being hospitable, which is also good. But if you overplay it, it makes you look inferior. It makes you look like you're weak and that you need something from you. You know, the oho opo is all good, but if you take it to an extreme, and you don't look confident, you don't look assertive, you look like you're someone's slave or you're someone's helper. And so people would take advantage of you if you express that kind of an English.
So it's also a cultural thing. There's
It's a cultural thing because
dimension to this as well.
my friends would say, you know, Filipinos travel a lot because we see them on the airplanes, but when they travel, we see them as workers. We don't see them as travelers.
Yes, yes.
So if you change the way you communicate, you take control of your life, you get promoted, people would respect you more, and they no longer look down on us as just domestic workers or helpers. They would see us as global leaders.
Okay. Chris, let's go back to call centers, okay? Because, you know, we know the call center business is booming in the Philippines.
Right.
It is a sunrise industry. I mean, we are competing. We are a powerhouse.
Yes.
A global call center powerhouse, second only to India. Some people are even saying we're actually taking the pole position away from India.
Yes.
But very, very disturbing statistics when you said 5% of our college grads actually are qualified to work in call centers. Now, let's talk about qualifications.
Well, 5% of those who would like to work in the call center.
Get in. All right. Now, what kind of skills do Filipinos need to work in a call center in the first place? Because a lot of Filipinos can speak English.
Right,
What specific skills are needed?
Well, beyond English speaking and communication skills, they have to concentrate on other things. For example, personality. What do we mean by personality? Are you outgoing? Do you have energy? Do you have strength? Because most of these positions are nighttime positions.
Yes.
Number two, you have to have culture. Do you fit the culture? Are you the kind of person they're looking for, or are you the kind of person who would just go to work, go home, and that's it? So are you a fun person? That's part of culture because they
In a
want
call center?
Yes,
Really?
that's what they want because it has to be outgoing. It has to
It's
be
about
active.
customer service, right?
Customer
Yeah.
service. So culture, personality. Number three, experience, of course. So there are many factors involved. And I just had a student who interviewed yesterday, and he said to me, you know, I had my checklist, and they told me, how come I didn't pass? Because they didn't check anything that I didn't do very well. So I looked at him and said, well, you're wearing a t-shirt when you went to an interview with a jacket. So many students don't even know that you should present yourself.
Of course.
The way you look is part of it.
This is a call center applicant.
Yes.
Well, he was probably thinking, I'm going to be
Based
the
on my
phone.
English, yes.
I mean, you know, I'm going to be, let's say, on a headset or something, talking
Mm-hmm.
to someone who'll never see me. So why do I have to change? Why do I have to wear like a suit and a coat and tie?
Exactly. So he forgot that part. And also, there are many other aspects like your tone.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the right grammar, but your tone is very dull. And if you're on the phone, we can't work with a dull person. It makes going through the system, through the lines across the ocean, it will even become duller. So your voice should have great intonation as well.
Would you say that this seeming shyness, perhaps, because you know a lot of Filipinos are very outgoing. You know, we're fun people.
Yes.
We're warm people, and it comes out of us naturally. You know.
Right.
Would you say that perhaps this is a cause of that lack of confidence, that fear of maybe saying something and then
Making a mistake.
making a mistake and looking stupid, that kind of thing?
Right. Well, it's part of it. It really comes from the way we're brought up, the way our schools are, the way our government is. The church even could play a factor in the way a person behaves in terms of the way they express their thoughts.
Yeah.
So in our culture, I see that, for example, at home, the kids are not allowed to speak to the elders, or we're not allowed to question authority. And at school, we're supposed to just listen. Sometimes we're spoon-fed. So there's not a lot of time for us to use our ideas and express our critical thinking.
But it's strange because all our movies, all the big movies are all in
Right.
English. I mean, we have no subtitles in Filipino here. When a
Right.
blockbuster movie comes, everyone goes to see it. The Avengers, for instance. No?
Yes.
And it's all in English.
Right.
And all the Filipinos can understand it, they can follow, they can appreciate the movie.
Right.
Now, why is it there seems to be a disconnect with that and then expressing themselves afterwards?
Well, when it comes to communication or English, there are 4 skills. There's listening comprehension, which is what you just mentioned. There's reading comprehension. You have to be able to read something and understand it. There's also speaking, the ability to speak, and that's what they're missing. And so why don't they speak it when really clearly they can understand it?
Sure.
Well, it's because they don't have the lifestyle of English. They go to school perhaps, maybe in English class they'll speak English, but beyond that, there's no more English. Only when they go to watch a movie or listen to music. So if it doesn't come out of your mouth, if it doesn't roll off of your tongue properly, it won't the next time you use it. So it's like a muscle memory,
Yes.
wherein you really have to live it, practice it all the time.
You have to surround yourself,
Surround
put yourself in an
yourself,
environment where you
yes.
think, where you think, dream,
Dream
breathe.
it, breathe it, everything
English.
around it. English,
No, I mean,
until...
it's the only way to go, really.
Yes.
To master a language, absolutely.
Exactly. Like,
Immersion.
for me, for example, people ask me, hey, Chris, you've been here for 8-9 years. How come you don't speak Filipino very well? You've been here 8-9 years. You're in the Philippines. So the answer to that is the same answer to English. I don't have the lifestyle of Filipino. Since I'm an English teacher, I'm always expected to speak English. I only speak Filipino when I'm in a taxi, when I'm trying to get a discount, manong pababa po or mas mababa po. And so people are
You sound like an
curious.
American when you say that.
Exactly, those things. So I'm still nosebleeding in Filipino because I don't have that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm Ilocano
Yeah.
as well. So there are times when I even think Spanish first because I took Spanish before I learned Tagalog. So really, it's a lifestyle. You really have to surround yourself with people who welcome speaking English.
I mean, if it's any consolation, because so many foreigners who've come to the Philippines and lived here for 30 years, 40 years. My
Right.
aunt, for once, is American. She's really American, and she's never learned Filipino. And I asked her once, how come? I mean,
Okay.
how come auntie never learned? And she told me, in the Philippines, everyone can speak English. So it's almost,
Yes.
to put it bluntly, useless for her to learn English because everyone can communicate.
Yes,
in-
you just
in
speak to
English, yeah.
someone from a driver to a janitor all the way to the president.
And you will be understood.
Exactly.
Definitely.
It might take longer because you may be using non-communicative English, but at least they'll understand it eventually.
You can get by.
Yes,
You
or they'll
can
ask a
live.
question.
Definitely.
Yes, and eventually
Yeah.
you'll understand each other.
Excellent. Chris, we have to pause for a break, but
Okay.
we're going to have your colleague come and we're going to talk about the operations behind the American Institute for English Proficiency when we come back.
Sure.
Guys, more of the importance of English when Philippines Uncut returns. Okay.